The OnePlus Pad 3 has finally arrived. I mean, sure, it was shipping a while back. I already made a video on this tablet, but now OnePlus has delivered the updates we like to see, and that's polished up the performance. It's real now, y'all! Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by you. Yes, viewers like you, all of the incredible folks who share content across social media, and the generosity of my patrons at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. Rocking the OnePlus Pad 3 for almost 3 months now. It is a great tablet. I produced a first look video when the embargo on this lifted, and most of what I talked about in that video was pretty close to the experience I've had living with the tablet a little longer. If you want to pause this video now, you can catch the first video is linked in the description below this video. Right off the top though, I do need to ding OnePlus on one part of this launch. It's really common that reviewers, people like me, get phones and tablets with unfinished software. If we get early access, we're using the device in a state that no consumer will really experience, or experience for very long. This is not unique to OnePlus. It's the situation with most brands that will put out an early access review device, that the real experience is found after an update has been sent out for those early bug fixes and optimizations. Doing a little light searching, Google and Samsung get a lot more coverage for updates than most other brands like OnePlus. It's really common to find reviewers who only talk about OP when the new device arrives, and that can lead to a skewed perspective on how brands support their products. OnePlus is nicely competitive with Google and Samsung for quality and consistency of device updates. If you didn't know that, it's because you just hear about this brand a lot less. But this go round, the first update for the Pad 3 took a bit longer than I was expecting. From publishing a video in June, we were well into the end of July before an OTA was available on my tablet, and we just got an update for the August security patches now. Where I feel we often see that first polish update in a week, this one took a bit longer. And I'm curious how to present that as data. You see, a poorly optimized Snapdragon chip in this tablet is still plenty capable of delivering the big numbers in Geekbench, right? After the updates, those Geekbench numbers don't change much. Many of the scores stay in margin of error territory. So if a reviewer is talking about high performance and how amazing and powerful this tablet is, it's likely they were just looking at benchmark numbers. They didn't really do anything on it, because on that early software, the real world performance was a bit disappointing. When I'm running my tests on video editing or podcast mixing and photo processing at launch, the OnePlus Pad 3 could often be outperformed by last generation phones and tablets. All the gadgets that were better optimized at the end of last generation. But I'm reluctant to just dump that info out on a first look video, as the traffic that video will get is probably going to be the highest we see on this product because of the ways YouTube mangles our content for popularity algorithms. Not unless every single one of you share this video across the socials, and even then, YouTube will still probably just cool this video off. The OnePlus Pad 3 is not the trendiest of trending topics. And we saw the same thing on the OnePlus 13. Talking about performance under embargo before an update would misrepresent the experience people will actually have with the product when they live with it and use it and it gets those updates. These numbers are not trivial. I run this 1-minute 4K video rendering project in LumaFusion. I've been running a version of this test since I left Pocket now. Let's just see how quickly we can render that project into a new video file. Now, if we look at Geekbench, the CPU performance after updates only seems to have improved by about 4%. During the embargo, that project in LumaFusion took 57 seconds to complete a 1-minute 4K render. That's really bad for a premium device these days. It's almost as long as the video would take to play in real time. But after the updates, that time was cut down to 27 seconds. So that 4% improvement in Geekbench scores resulted in a 52% reduction in render time. That's why we like better optimization. Ditto my crazy long batch raw photo processing test. Not only did the overall test finish a little faster, but this tablet throttled significantly less while completing the two halves of the test. And for folks who want more of that info and the data and the testing that I do in my terrible bar graphs, you can catch that information on my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. And that's probably the best place to get actual updates on when I publish new content, as YouTube seems to be actively working against creators these days. Even if you went and smashed the bell icon, I digress. I am but one dude producing this stuff all by myself. I don't have a team. So it's pretty galling when larger outlets with better resources are generally fine misrepresenting performance when they have the ability to test more products more consistently, but they're going to make more money easier and with less effort, just regurgitating the marketing decks and the claims of the companies that spend the most on advertising their products. Why even bother claiming to test performance if you can't show apps running on a phone or tablet that can demonstrate the performance you're trying to describe? Beyond performance, I feel I got most of the other points right in my first look video. I like this design, even if the frame and the flatter edges feel a bit inspired by another tablet manufacturer. I still think the screen is gorgeous. I got a bunch of comments from nerds, about preferring OLED, and that's fine, the preference, but acting like screen bad because LCD that's really dumb. A pretty LCD is still a pretty screen. It's been really handy keeping pen compatibility between the Pad 2 and the Pad 3. I love when accessories can live beyond a single device purchase. And speaking of accessories, there's not a lot out there for this tablet, but I found it at least a little encouraging how fast I was able to get screen protectors, and I saw a few options for bumper cases and folio cases. I think I'd still likely recommend sticking with the first-party solutions unless you need something really specific, but I like seeing other options, especially so soon at launch. That said, I still don't love this two-piece keyboard attachment. I wish the magnets on the back were a little grippier for the kickstand so that we could more safely support the weight of the whole tablet. They pop off easier than I'd like to see. And this keyboard flap also doesn't quite achieve what I think the engineers were going for. Resting the weight of the tablet on this strip instead of just connecting to the bottom edge of the tablet. Now, in theory, that should hold the two pieces together better if you need to shift the tablet or slide it on a table, but it's probably still going to separate at the pogo pins if you move it at all. And since the Pad 3 is a little bigger than the Pad 2, I really like going wireless more often with that keyboard. I set up the tablet securely, separate the blade, and I can move it to my lap. This does not work as a single unit in my lap like a laptop. But the keyboard as a blade is really nice to type on when it's just in my lap and the tablet is maybe over on a table. The actual function of the keyboard is definitely improved over the Pad 2, especially that trackpad. It is so much nicer. And battery life has been stellar, especially after the updates. The speakers sound so much fuller in person than I can create in a YouTube streaming audio test. It's just a monster device for work and play. The thing I think might give some folks pause: this is a premium, nice device. It's OnePlus climbing higher up the price food chain, but it only arrives in one storage configuration. This is something that would be really fun to game on, but 256 gig of storage is really lean. If I want to edit a video, read some comics, and play some games, I'm chewing through that storage fast. I have to give it the nod that this is one of the nicest tablets available in North America. But the more you think you're really going to use it, the more you think you'll rely on it instead of like a laptop. I would highly recommend just keeping a laptop hub handy. Android in general, phones and tablets, you can do some really cool things with a laptop hub for additional storage and functionality, but I really wish the Pad 3 had a larger storage option and the ability to pop in a memory card. For some of those other nice features, I'm really not as bothered by the lack of 5G these days. Pairing with a OnePlus phone, that's spot on, and other phones can hotspot really easily, but adding more storage is the one point I think might make people ponder. Lastly, as we look to the future, and probably I'm gonna need to do another follow-up video on this, I just hope we see OnePlus take Android 16 seriously and give us some of those improvements to tablet mode and a better desktop mode. I can plug this into another display. I hope we see better software to use that hardware feature. Like, I shouldn't be turning to Apple. Apple finally saw the light on iPads, right? We always wanted a more PC-like user interface. The right time for Google to have done this was like 10 years ago. I guess the second best time for Google to do it is after Apple does it. But I've certainly digressed again. All of that said, we're still doing a bit better than a base model iPad Air, which I feel is one of the closer competitors. If we go keyboard and stylus, this is an expensive piece of kit, but MSRP to MSRP, we're beating a 256 gig iPad Air by hundreds of dollars. And of course, OnePlus is going to hit sales and combo deals that Apple just won't touch. At the time I shot this video, this whole kit with stylus and keyboard was closing in on a sort of upper mid-range laptop price. That's pretty good territory for a beast of a slate. So this is in the running. This is in the conversation for best tablet of the year in the United States. OnePlus has been putting out bangers lately, and when you really pay attention to the support, they just keep getting better. I'll of course drop links below if you want more info on OnePlus products or if you were waiting out to shop this on a good sale. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. But the sharing is really the important part these days. I love digging into this stuff, and the folks who get to see the results of my testing and benchmarks and reviewing first are of course my incredible patrons. All of the people over on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list of names scrolling by on your screen right now. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart, as these are the folks that are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe, and they get exclusive access to my 4K videos, camera benchmark deep dive videos, and of course, the bar graphs that I made out of PowerPoint. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. I hope you'll consider joining the community at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere, but these days, spending a bit more time on the Mastodons, a little on the Blueskis, and a lot less so on the Facebooks, Threads, Instagrams, and none at all on that dumpster fire site, and I will catch you all on the next review.